Play the clip of what I think would be one way to help unify America. And I want to get your thoughts. And I also want to kind of give you an idea what's been happening since then and what kind of messages I started getting with this. Kai, if you can raise the volume, see where the volume's at.
And I'm going to pull my stats of your message here, too.
Okay. And then go ahead and press play.
But I'm deeply concerned with how divided America is today. And I think there are only two people that can help us unify America, with one of them being former President Barack Obama and the other being, yes, former President Donald J. Trump. And this is why I'm putting $5 million of my own money, $2.5 million to President Obama, $2.5 million to President Trump, to agree to do a long-form interview to discuss ideas with only one thing in mind: to help unify America. Having said that, President Obama, President Trump, let me address why I think you ought to consider doing this. Number one, I think if we were to look at America as a left wing and a right wing, I think the voice of the left wing today is still President Obama, and the voice of the right wing today is still President Donald J. Trump. But when I think about the two of you, I think about two people who both love America. They have different ideas, but I think both of you love America. And I also see today, whenever we see a husband and wife that are about to go through a divorce, we see signs of a divorce. You see it 6 months before, 12 months before, 8 months before, and you try to do whatever you can to save that marriage, but you kind of see it's coming. I think the world, if they're watching us, China, Iran, Russia, is seeing a great divorce could potentially happen with the United States of America. And what can we do to save that marriage? Obviously, they would love to see us get a divorce. But I think a man both of you admire, Abraham Lincoln, once said the following: "We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic chords of memory will swell when again touched, as surely they will be by the better angels of our nature." I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, but I think the world thinks the two of you are enemies. And it doesn't make any sense to have two presidents of the greatest nation in the world to be enemies. What do you think would happen if the two of you sat down together? How would China, Iran, or Russia react to that? Why does this matter to me? See, I have 4 kids. I just had my last kid 2 weeks ago. Brooklyn, Ivy, Bet David, and I'm in the hospital looking at this baby saying to myself, your daddy's dreams became a reality because of this great country called America with the flag behind me. But are your dreams going to become a reality? Is this the same thing as it was 42 years ago, 22 years ago? I don't know. I'm going to do my part. I can't run for office, but I'm going to do whatever I can to unite this great nation here. So if you're watching this, and if you agree to this, I would love to schedule the time. And folks, if you're watching this and you want to see this become a reality, share it with everybody you know.
By the way, if you're watching this, I'm curious. I'm watching the commentary right now. Put a thumbs up if you'd like to see this. Not whether you believe this could happen or not. Put a thumbs up if you'd like to see this. Put a thumbs down if you don't want to see this at all. You don't think it would do anything to help reunite America. Gerard, your reaction to something like this if it were to happen?
Well, first of all, you're welcome for the usage of my backyard there. No
beautiful
rent or
place
anything
you got
like
there.
that.
I got to tell you,
yeah.
Beautiful home. I appreciate that.
It's fine. We had the cabana open for you. What do I think? I think a discussion, not a debate, an actual discussion between these two folks on how we got to where we are, and really just focused on solutions of how we can get forward past this, would be the greatest thing to ever happen in the history of American media. I cannot think of any time in my life that two opposing factions sat down and one took accountability for how we got here, because they both have a hand in where the nation is right now, and then proposed solutions going forward. It's like getting two gang leaders to the table. The only thing that I could kind of think of was back in the day when I was young, and this is something a lot of people aren't going to know about, but it's part of my Irish heritage, so we were aware of it. It's when Clinton got the Crown and the IRA to sit down together and say, look, we got to stop blowing things up in Belfast. We got to stop putting bombs in garbage cans in London.
Right.
And that
the whole Ulster question.
That had a massive effect on the world. The EU doesn't exist today without first that domino of falling. Right. So I think anytime there can be a détente, anytime that there can be communication between two warring factions, and make no mistake about it, the left and the right, the politicians in D.C. are at war with one another. Make no mistake about it. Anytime that they can sit down and talk and walk us all back from the brink, I think it's a necessary thing. And are you really going to put $5 million up for this? For real?
$5 million.
For real. Is that's not a gimmick? Like
100%. 100%. $5 million. Why would I say to not do it?
Dude, that's awesome. I hope
Yeah.
I hope that they are man enough to do it. I hope that they are man enough to sit down in their beliefs and say, this isn't about me, this is about us. And I hope it gets to them, and I hope that they see this, and I hope that their first reaction is like, no way. And then I hope the people out there and the valuetainers, because you guys hit up my DMs, and I know how persuasive you can be. I hope you guys are blasting these people. I hope you're blasting their camps. I hope you find out who their campaign managers are, because that's the truth. If you want to talk to these people, you find out who their campaign managers are, and you blast them with this. And you the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Who wants to see this happen? Who doesn't want to see this happen? That's the real question. I mean, if you think about, like, if you look at the messaging, and when this went out yesterday, I got a lot of calls from people saying, I shared this with my group, and everybody said, I had people saying, why the hell would Obama ever sit across a, con man like Trump? And then there were people that said, why the hell would Trump ever sit down with somebody that's as conniving? I mean, it's like on both sides. There are some people that cannot get that division out of their minds to see this thing take place. But who do you not think wants to see this happen? And who do you think wants to see this happen?
Look, we're a government, as you pointed out, of identity, right? And identity politics is the tool of the left at the moment. They're run on identity, whereas the tool of the right is still running on ideas, but ideas and then identity is a close second, and it creates a division. So I don't think Pelosi wants to see this. Pelosi's been spending, they would have to change. So Pelosi doesn't want to see it because they've spent so much time generating so much momentum, taking advantage of all the unrest and all the its various forms of the last 14 months. I don't think she wants to see this because she would have to concede certain points. So I don't think the left is going to want to see this because they would have to concede points, and they are the volatile side of the argument in terms of the incendiary part of it, whereas the right tends to be the reactive part of it. They're usually reacting to the incendiary. There's sins on both sides, but I don't think that the hard left leadership wants to see it.
I don't know if I could even say his name. It rhymes with Si Sing Ting would not like to see this happen. He spent a lot more than $5 million to rip this country in half, and he's almost got it. They've almost got it. Let me ask the question a different way. I got a guy yesterday. I'm trying to get his seat. He messaged me right now, his phone number. I'm texting him to get him on here. But look at it from a different standpoint. I just texted you. Look at it from a different standpoint. Here's a question. Say it happens. Mm-hmm. Okay? Let's just say it happens. Let's say we have the meeting set up, and Trump and Obama are sitting right across from one another. Long-form interviews, sit down. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, when I first announced this and we were talking about it, remember when this was? This was a few days before 4th of July when I said I want to do this. And you're like, Pat, this is crazy. This is, and we went, I don't know till what time it was, midnight when we were processing this together. We've known about doing this for how long now? Since 1 o'clock in the morning.
1 o'clock in the morning. This is a week before 4th of July. So go whatever today's date is, go to then. That's about 5 weeks. And it happened off the cuff. We were at the kitchen, just having a conversation. I said, I'd like to see this take place, right? But say this takes place and they're sitting there together. My only reason why I think this, first thing he said, Pat, you think this could take place? I said, I think this could take place. But I said, there's only one person that wouldn't want this to happen. And you said, who wouldn't want this thing to happen? I said, Oprah Winfrey. And why wouldn't Oprah? Because the first thing's going to be if Oprah's camp gets a hold of this, they send it to her, she goes to ABC and says, let me do this interview. Why would I let somebody else do the interview? I think a long-form interview in a format like this, to sit down and have the right questions to be asked, to hear both of them go at it, if that were to take place, how do you think the world's going to react? What do you think positively it's going to do to America if it actually did take place? Mm-hmm. And how will it do any negative impact on who? So how will the world react? What positive impact will it have? And what negative impact will it have?
Yeah, to me, first of all, it'd be cathartic. Like, I'm done with debates. These canned questions and the sound bites. I'm done. It's not an actual debate. A sit down conversation where they actually could call each other, see each other as equals, see each other not necessarily as adversaries, but two wings of the same bird. Look, we talk about it on this podcast all the time. I just want to live in the same reality with people I disagree. I don't need to agree with everybody. I just want to live in the same reality that they live in. There's people, when I was up in New York, I'm like, dude, we don't live in the same reality. When there's people who looking at Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York, telling us the voluntary phase of this vaccination is over. And people being like, okay, good, that's a good thing. And I'm like, what? We're not living in the same reality. That the government just said that they're going to come to your door, kick the door down, and shove something that you don't want inside your body. What's the difference between consent and what's the difference between, and not? It's consent. What's the difference? I'm not going to use the R word and get this thing, but I'm saying that's it. The difference between sex and something else is just consent. That's all it is. So now these guys are going to take your body. They think they own you. The government does not own me. The government does not
Stay
own
on this
me.
topic. Tell me about this topic, though. How would the world react to it if this were to actually happen?
Well, this happened in my lifetime,
Yeah.
and you would have been very, 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 very small. But one of the gentlemen is probably one of the nicest and most integrous people ever to be in the White House, but he was a very ineffective leader and president, which is Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter got the Camp David peace accord pulled off, and the world watched in shock as he took Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat, I believe it was, to Camp David and got them to agree on things and agree to peace. And there are many people, including me, I'm not part of politics, but everything I've read, it cost Anwar Sadat his life. He was assassinated later. But a world watched in absolute shock and awe in a good way as the two sides came together. And if Kai can find the pictures of it, Camp David Peace Accord, going back there, right before 1980, it's happened before in our lifetime where two avowed enemies got together and the world was shocked and inspired. There they are. Look at that picture. They were actually laughing. There was relationship. Look at there. You can't fake that. That was not modern day faked images, Pat. Those images there are men who now have some semblance of a relationship as a result. And it started as a sit down brokered by Jimmy Carter, who was in the middle of breaking the U.S. economy, another story, brokered by Jimmy Carter to get these two folks together.
So what do you think would happen if these?
I think you'd have this kind. You're not on a Camp David stage and Nobel Peace Prize and all this stuff. But I think that if you truly got it together, there would be a percent of people that look at it like this and would be really inspired by it. Pat, look at the far left, the first picture. Look at him there with Jimmy Carter, hand on his heart, lower left. Okay, before now look at yeah. Which two guys don't look like they want to be there? And then look at the other picture. I believe we can make progress on this. And I think we've seen it right here in our lifetime when you get sides together and you can have some sort of a dialogue and move it forward, something can happen. There'll be parts of this country that don't want it to happen, G, that want to undermine it all. But I think it would be a moment that I think would be strong.
What would you hope to get out of it? I mean, what would you hope to get out of it? What would you ask them? How could you get them off of their talking points?
Yeah.
How could you? They're so entrenched in their talking points. How would they just not take the money and use it to further messaging that's already out there all over the place?
Somebody asked me a question. They said, why don't you give the $2.5 million to charity? I said, the money can go anywhere it wants to go to. If they want to give it to charity or if they want to keep it. Matter of fact, I'm gonna keep raising money to see if this money needs to get higher for us to be able to make this happen. Whether it's somebody said, why don't you announce that anybody that matches your $5 million, they're actually in the room when the interview takes place. So if somebody wants to match $5 million, what if we get 10 people that put up $5 million? Now we got $50 million. Now we're raising some money. And what if people are donating $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 to be able to make this thing happen, and then eventually we get the attention. I don't know if we're announcing $100 million.
You might be able to afford Hunter Biden for $100 million.
Yeah, if we get to $50 million a pop.
Do I get a painting?
If we get to a point where we're raising that kind of money to get the attention of it, you want to give it to charity? What do you want to give it to, President Obama? You want to give it to Illinois to help some kids out? Great. Hey, President Trump, you want to help some of the guys
yours.
out in the
Do what you want.
Do what you want to do with it.
Yeah.
Yours, charity, whatever it may be. Here's what I do believe. I believe this is going to happen. I fully believe this is going to happen. Fully believe this is going to happen. The only thing with this on whether it's going to happen or not is whether people want to see an Oprah Winfrey do the interview or if people want to see a podcast do the interview. That's the real difference. I'm willing to go raise the money. I'm willing to have that money being brought up. I've sat in a lot of different conversations in my life where people who didn't want to talk to each other. And I've always seen 99% of issues that you have will be resolved when you face off with each other. Because at the end of the day, even the person you can't stand the most, if you spend a few hours with them and you talk, you'll eventually realize we have a lot more in common than we actually think. In common.
Right.
If you actually think about how many things Barack Obama and Donald Trump differ in, how many things you think it is? How many things is it? Say stuff that they fully disagree with. Is it 1,000 things? Is it 100 things? Is it 50 things?
It's probably nuance within those things.
But what I'm saying to you is how many things you think it is? Is it family? You think neither one of them value family? You think neither one of them value the ability to communicate a message? You think neither one of them value the ability to work hard? You think Obama became a two-term president by not working his tail off on the campaign? You think Trump became who he is today by not wanting to go out there and work his tail off to make money? What values do they? There's hundreds they're on the same page with. The idea becomes, let's identify what the two of you guys agree with. What are some areas that you disagree with? And how do we get here? And what are both of you willing to commit to? You chose to go into public service. Nobody encouraged you to go into it. You chose to go into public service. What do we need to do to bring this thing together? Because at this point of the game, it's no longer about, whether America is going to be the greatest country in the world forever. That's not what it's looking like right now. You got countries like China that are catching up. You got countries from many different places that are not intimidated of America like they once used to be. I think if they sit down together and they go from one state where we're talking and asking some questions about how we got here, and then it gets to a point where I just pause and I say, can you guys just talk, the two of you, and we're going to watch. What questions do you have for each other? I think there's got to be an approach where they talk to one another and then we ask the questions and then see where that goes. But I can tell you by the time it's over with, if it's done properly, the world's going to look at it and say, this is not good. Because if it becomes them against the world, this is not a good thing if it becomes them against the world. Could that happen? Could it not happen? I don't know. But when a lot of people say it's a terrible idea, one guy said it's a narcissistic idea. I have no idea how this is a narcissistic idea to come up with this. When you think about an idea, I got people that said, I don't know why nobody else thought about this before. I don't know why nobody else has announced this before. Well, the reality of it is, if we can unite, is America worth uniting? The answer is what? Of
Hell
course.
yes.
If it's not, then you give me your alternative. If somebody says, terrible idea, what's your idea? What do you suggest doing? So if you enjoyed this little short segment from the podcast that we did, here's another short segment to watch. Or if you want to see the entire podcast, click over here. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.